Hey, what's up? If you are a triathlete or a swimmer and you're specifically looking for a goggle that does a great job of cutting down on the fog and the glare when you're swimming in open water, stick around as we do our last installment in reviewing the 4 hottest best-selling goggles of 2015. What we are talking about today in the 4th installment of our best-selling and hottest goggles of 2015 is a set of goggles that I think people are most curious about, and that is Roka's entry into the goggle game. What we've got here is the Roka Sports F2 Full View Mirrored Goggle. That was tough to get out. So these here aren't Roka's largest goggle, but they're Roka's mid-range goggle as far as the viewing angle that you get out of them. Coming in at 30 bucks, these are definitely starting to get into a pricier goggle, but I gotta say that it's worth it with Roka. And I feel bad saying that. I tried to be critical of Roka because I think that I'm starting to sound like a fanboy with Roka. I did a review on the Roka Maverick Pro wetsuit, which I'll link to up here. I loved that wetsuit, so I didn't want to come off gushy with these Roka goggles, but fact of the matter is that I really like them because they're just a solid goggle. As far as comfort goes, these aren't the most comfortable goggles that I've ever put on. That award goes to the Tier Special Ops 2.0. I'll link to that video that I did up here and in the description below. But these were comfortable. I wouldn't have any problem wearing them for a long open water swim for a bunch of hours. And I think the reason for that was the ease of fit with these goggles. I found that you didn't have to tighten down the goggles very much. They're kind of a crossover between a smaller socket goggle like the Speedo Vanquisher and a really large coverage goggle like the Zogs, and that nice crossover in between sort of size makes them fit really well and give you good coverage. The silicone gasket is kind of, again, in between a large full coverage gasket and a smaller socket goggle, but it was soft enough that it didn't really put much pressure on the eye socket. As far as suction goes, I was really surprised. These are kind of a higher profile goggle and they stick outside your eye socket just a little bit, so I wasn't expecting them to stay on my face nearly as well as they did when I was diving off the blocks. But you know what? Even with them loosely fitted onto my eye socket, they didn't fall off. So these would work really well in the pool, whether you're swimming laps or you're forced to dive off the blocks. Didn't really matter because it stayed on in both cases. As far as fog goes, they fogged up a little. I don't think any goggle is completely impervious to fog, but I would say that this goggle, of all the 4 that we tried, probably fogged up the least. As far as glare and visibility goes, I was really impressed with the viewing angle of this goggle. Being a smaller, basically a socket goggle, I was expecting a much more narrow field of view, but it actually is quite a wide viewing angle, so if you're in open water, you're going to be able to sight really well looking up or to the side, and in the pool, you've got good visibility. The one complaint that I do have about these mirrored goggles specifically is that they're not ideal in the pool because they are so dark. It does get to be tough looking at the clock if it's a long way away. But if you've only got to have one set of goggles, you'll still probably be able to see the clock just fine in the pool with these. As far as the glare off the water is concerned, out in open water, these mirrored goggles were really great for cutting down that glare. Basically took all of the shine off the water so I could spot really easily. I would recommend these or the mirrored Vanquishers if you've got an early morning swim because it cuts out that sun almost completely. As far as looks goes, I think that they look really sharp. The full mirror wrapping around the eye, that Roka right on the nose piece. I like the way that they've styled this, so I like the looks even though it's a little more simple. I think that it just looks sleek and kind of badass. So overall, like I said, I tried to be really tough on Roka because I didn't want to sound gushy with the company, but they just do a good job at coming up with quality swim products in everything that I've tried. So that's it for the Roka Sports F2 Full View Mirrored Goggle. But before you go, I want to remind you that if you are not an A-Race subscriber, you can click anywhere on me or the subscribe button above to make sure that you don't miss our final roundup where we compare all the goggles against each other and give you a ranking of which goggle we think is the best goggle of 2015. If you're watching on a smartphone, you can't click on me, you're just going to have to click the subscribe button below. So check out the other reviews and check out the roundup when it comes out in our next video. If you're a regular A-Race subscriber, thank you for watching, liking, and commenting as always. We'll see you in the roundup video. Kill your next A-Race.